responsibility and accountability to the federal government for many years, and we fought for a return to the statutory pay-as-you-go rules of the 1990s as a way to accomplish that goal. After many years of fighting tooth and nail against those who just as soon pass the buck and the bill to our children and our grandchildren, rather than taking responsibility and paying our bills today, we feel we are finally taking a monumental step in the right direction. In a minute, my colleagues will talk in more detail about exactly how we are moving forward in achieving our ultimate goal of making statutory pay-go a reality. But first, I would like to recognize the esteemed Majority Leader of the House, Mr. Steny Hoyer, who has been a staunch ally of the Blue Dogs and a tireless advocate of fiscal responsibility for many years. Mr. Hoyer.
Thank you very much, Congressman Lawson. I am very proud to stand here with these leaders of the Congress of the United States who have kept in focus the need to have fiscal responsibility high on our agenda. They were absolutely critical in arriving at the point we arrived at today, where we had 233 people, over 2/3 of the members of the Blue Dog Coalition, voting for a budget that they had confidence was going to affect fiscal discipline, as well as the investments in the future that we need. The budget is part of our effort to set the stage for sustainable economic recovery and growth. It moves us toward rebalancing America's fiscal position. In the 90s, we reached balance. We created surpluses. In this decade, we squandered those surpluses and did not invest in growing our economy. And this president inherited, and the 111th Congress inherited, an economy in the greatest distress that it had been since the Great Depression. We've spent a great deal of money over the past few months. It was necessary, in my opinion, to arrest a quickly tanking economy. This move was broadly supported by economists, conservatives, and liberals alike, including the Blue Dogs themselves, who, while they clearly were concerned about the deficit that was being created, knew that it would be even deeper if we did not help this economy rebound. While we acted responsibly to boost our economy, our last president presided over very irresponsible fiscal policies, taking us from projected surpluses into deep debt and deficits. Democrats are working to turn those numbers around. And the Blue Dogs, the leaders who stand behind me, Barron Hill, Alan Boyd, Charlie Melanson, Stephanie Herseth, Sandlin, John Tanner, and Jim Cooper, are going to be the leaders in ensuring that we continue on that track. The President of the United States, in discussions with the Blue Dogs, has assured them that he shares their objective and will be working with them in tandem to accomplish the fiscal responsibility for which they have fought so long and so ably. This budget starts that work by cutting the deficits by 2/3, bringing it down to 3% of GDP by 2014, as opposed to the 10.5% it is today. Well, this is a strong first step. We are all in agreement that pay-go is essential if we are going to get back into a fiscally sound management of our nation's finances. Pay-go, statutorily in place, was in part responsible for the creation of the balances I talked about in the 90s. It can be so again. I was pleased to work with the Blue Dogs over the past few days to ensure that statutory pay-go will get done this year. I use the word ensure because the Speaker and I had both committed ourselves that if we do not enact statutory pay-go, we will not be able to move on some of the priorities that the President and we share. To that end, Speaker Pelosi and I sent a letter to budget conferees that says that we will not consider any bills on middle income tax cuts, state tax, AMT relief, or sustainable growth rate. That's the doc fix, as we call it, for Medicare, unless statutory pay-go has been enacted. Statutory pay-go is included, or the bill is fully offset. When I say included, if statutory pay-go is in the bill that carries one of those 4 issues, then we will place it on the floor, because that will be a step in the enactment of statutory pay go. If statutory pay go has been adopted, we understand that we will modify the baseline to provide for these 4 items. But it is only in that instance, because the adoption of statutory pay go, supported by this President, who will sign this bill, is critically important to attain the objectives that we seek, a fiscal responsibility for the generations yet to come. I look forward to working with the Blue Dogs, as I have almost all of my career, and all the days that they've been in existence as Blue Dogs, enforcing this budget and restoring statutory pay go. We will work with the administration to develop a statutory pay go bill that is effective and will put us back on the path toward fiscal sustainability. Again, I want to congratulate. It's tough sometimes to stand up and say, look, we've got to do the tough things. We've got to exercise discipline. It's tough sometimes to do that because your colleagues say, gee whiz, can't we do that another day? I particularly want to thank Alan Boyd, who was representing these fiscal leaders as a member of the conference committee. There were only 3 Democrats on the conference committee. Alan Boyd was one of those. His strong stance and leadership made an extraordinary difference and got us to where we are today. But without the support of the Blue Dogs and the leadership of the Blue Dogs, Alan would not have been able to do that. So I want to thank all of them on behalf of the Speaker and myself for the leadership that they have shown that gave us this success today. Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask Alan Boyd to say a few words, if you would, to kind of summarize what's been going on.
Thank you, Charlie, and Mr. Leader. Thank you. I think we need to recognize the great deal of credit goes to Steny Hoyer, Speaker Pelosi, both who agree with the concept that we ought not to have government spending programs that we're unwilling to pay for. That's a very simple concept. But also President Obama, who has communicated to us on numerous occasions, both in writing and verbally, that he agrees with us to help us move forward to restore fiscal discipline. But also to this group of Blue Dogs standing behind me in the leadership, Stephanie, Barron, Charlie, Schuler, and others who the group asked me to go and represent their interest, and I think the interest of the children of this nation, in making sure that we act responsibly in the way we spend and collect and spend our government tax money. Our goal from the outset was to do a couple things. Restore fiscal discipline to this nation's budgeting process and appropriating process. You can only do that with an honest budget. The President sent us down an honest budget. It wasn't pretty. He didn't give you a sticker shock. But at least it included the things in it that we knew we had to do, something that the previous administration had not done for 7 or 8 years. So then we could go to work, and our objective was to make sure that we move toward fiscal discipline. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the Congress has proven time and time and time again, it does not have the will or discipline to, or the will to discipline itself when it comes to fiscal matters. That's why we have to have these statutory rules. That's why we put them in place in the 90s. The pay-go rules, discretionary spending caps, those kinds of things which basically in statute force the Congress to act responsibly. Those rules which the Republicans let expire in 2002. And then you saw what happened after they expired in 2002. Because spending went crazy, reduced tax revenue, and then you had a very, very wide gap of red ink, mostly borrowed from overseas governments. So I thank the Majority Leader and the Speaker and the leadership of the Blue Dogs for their support. And we'll be glad to answer questions. But afterwards, next, let's hear from Barron Hill.
Thank you, Alan. As Alan has already stated, back in the 1990s we had statutory pay go, and the result was that we had surpluses. I think it was either 1999 or 2000 and two continuous years. These policies were instrumental back in those days of making sure that Congress was fiscally responsible. Of course, we want to do this all over again, and we've been fighting for it ever since we got our majorities back. But the other day I filed a bill that would enact statutory pay go And we have 51 co-authors on it right now. And so the list, I hope, is going to grow. All of the Blue Dogs co-sponsored the legislation. Not a one did not, and I'm delighted to report that. It's House Resolution 2116. And as has already been mentioned, we're happy that Steny Hoyer and the Speaker wrote the letters that they did. That was critical and important. We're very happy that the President is also on board. He told us that personally and in writing. He, at the radio address this past Saturday, indicated that he supported a bill similar to mine that I have filed in the House. So Blue Dogs are optimistic. We're not blue about this at all. We're very optimistic. We're happy about what the developments. We would have liked to have had this taken care of in the budget resolution, but that having been said, we're delighted at the strategy that we presently have. We trust the Majority Leader and the Speaker and the President to follow through on their promises to enact statutory pay go. There's a lot of work to be done in the Senate to convince that body that this is an important issue, but with the President and the Speaker and the Majority Leader's letters, I think we're going to get it done. Thank you.
Let me address the importance of the White House support in this effort. Both the Majority Leader as well as Mr. Floyd and Mr. Hill have mentioned the importance of this. But in talking with our own membership, this is the first 100 days. And at every point, even before President Obama was sworn in, members of his transition team and then members of his administration have been meeting with the Blue Dog Coalition on a continuing basis on the goals that we have in common. Not only a commitment to enacting statutory pay-go, but entitlement reform and, of course, putting forth a transparent and accountable budget that we hadn't seen in years, particularly as it related to war-related costs. So in addition to working with our own leadership, Mr. Hoyer and the Speaker, and the very strong letter that they sent to conferees in the budget conference negotiation process, it was very important to us that just prior to and shortly after a call that the co-chairs had with the President last Friday, that a letter had been sent to the Speaker and then a letter was sent to Senator Reid, signed by the President, recommitting, restating his commitment to statutory pay-go and the importance of this tool, among others, to restore our fiscal health, to address our responsibility to future generations, and to put the pressure on the Senate. I have no doubt that the White House and President Obama personally will work with our Senate colleagues to understand the importance of statutory pay-go as, again, one tool among others within the framework procedurally to hold all members of Congress accountable to make the difficult decisions that are going to be necessary to advance the White House and Democratic Congress's priorities, but in a fiscally responsible manner. Our constituents expect and deserve nothing less as it relates to competent, responsive, and fiscally responsible manners of spending their taxpayer dollars wisely. So with that, let me turn it over to Jim Cooper, one of the experts, leading experts within the Blue Dog Coalition and the Congress on the budget.